some of the results did not look inspiring, but these are a little bit deceptive because, in actual fact, they don't, because you have such high fluctuations on some of the readings that you get with the exact matches. So the other thing that is, we had exact match dates. So out of those 4,000 various dates that we had, there was only 400 and I think it's 470 or something like that that we could use as actual match dates in the different setups. So these correlation coefficients that you get associated with that with different equations. So we tested it against linear, polynomial, logarithmic, exponential, and power equations. You're getting correlations of 0.2, but in the cases, what we're doing is we're taking a sort of grid average around the particular sampling point because we thought there might be some drifting associated with that. And then additional to that is sometimes the water quality variables pick up very high sort of values, which we won't see on the satellite because you're getting a sort of averaged thing over a number of pixels. So these don't look that good initially on some of the things, and some of them are very good. For turbidity, for instance, the correlations are around about 0.7 to 0.9, depending on where you are. All right, so that's one of the aspects associated with these results. But again, we can understand which ones are performing the best results, and this gives us some idea of which performance indicators go well. We also put this through some AI setups to have a look at that, and that's a separate sort of paper in its own right. But a lot of the information was confirmed by AI, and the AI got much better results than us. But then we discovered that it was doing a thing called extrinsic hallucinations, which means it just pulls out results from the internet and shoves them in for you. The actual analysis results are more accurate if we take that per element.
Jason, can you just
Yeah. All right. Sorry, you're breaking up there a bit, Kim. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So what is the significance of the colors there? Are the dark green ones that were better, or the yellow? What is the significance of the colors in that row?
The green is the better the performance relating to that. So you can see over here, for instance, the polynomial R squared for the chlorophyll A Bramwich satellite indicator was the best indicator associated with here. And then some of these cyanobacteria actually also performed reasonably well. So it's just, these results are presented in that one report that I sent through, but I mean, there's hundreds of pages of these results. So I'm just giving you an idea of some of the sort of outputs associated with that.
Thank you.
Also associated with this is if we're having a look at this, so this is algae count associated with that. So one of the things that is quite interesting is different indicators actually perform better for different dams. So for instance, Midmar over here, what we see is that in actual fact, like your Moses and these types of things in Midmar are performing very well, and in other dams they perform less well. And then the overall consolidated performance for all of the dams is lower than that. So in some cases, you might actually have a situation where you could pick out a specific indicator for a specific dam and it'll give you better results associated with that.
If you just want to comment on that, so it's likely to be due to the type of algal genus that is dominating, and Midmar would have maybe more diatoms or green algae, and they like the green algae might have more chlorophyll in the actual cell, whereas the cyanobacteria, which are the problematic ones for us for treatment, are small cells with perhaps in some ways lower chlorophyll, but they are far more troublesome from a treatability perspective. And if I just think off the top of my head, it could be why Midmar is performing well, and those are usually dams that have mixed profiles that are in the earlier stages of the eutrophication process. So they might be oligotrophic or mesotrophic. By the time they move to eutrophic or hypertrophic, like I'm not sure when the data is from, but Albert Falls, Inanda, Nagel, you are dominated by cyanobacteria, which is probably going to have lower correlations.
Yes. Okay. So we're picking up some of those aspects associated with that, which is it's great. We've also discovered in the satellite information and in some of the literature that the different sort of turbidities related to the dams. So if you've got dams that are have got sort of more browner sort of elements, if you like, associated with them. There's different equations that perform better in those different areas. So it could be a situation that mid-Mars stuff is also related to some of those sort of performances associated with that. But we can get into that. But in actual fact, I think you'll see that there's quite nice correlations to what you've just said now, because the chlorophyll indicator versus the algae indicator that we've used give different results for mid-Mar and those types of things, which is quite nice. Yeah, show you that. All right, what we've done associated with that is because the you could call it anomalous values associated with these different elements can skew these R-squared fits quite heavily. Instead of getting rid of these anomalies, what we've decided to do is just have a look at category matching. So just give me 1 second there. I just wanted to show you. Sorry, just let me pull this across. Yeah, so Kim, from your paper that you sent through that you wrote with various people, these are the sort of categories that we've got. So some of it was for river, some of it was for the reservoirs, and some of it was for the raw water quality. So when we're talking about category matching over here, what we've done is we've taken the measured results and we've filtered them onto these particular categories that you're looking at over here. So algae, for instance, will be we would have taken the worst algae measure or the worst turbidity measure out of these sort of setups over here, and then had a look at them and said, okay, we're going to use those as the categories that we're looking at. So then when we go to the category matching that we discussing over here, what you've got is a situation where we're having a look at categories. So what you'll see over here, for instance, algae count, you've got these whole lot, and then category 5 is your worst category, if you like. And you can see like there's certain matches that you get across the range of these different indicators. So we've adjusted these in various ways to get to see if we can maximize the number of category hits that we get with different indicators. There's another one with turbidity, just having a look at how the turbidity sort of plays out in category matches associated with that. And again, don't get too sort of hung up on what you've seen over here, but green, for instance, is very good matches, and red would be poorer matches associated with that. And this is just using different methods of categorizing the different things within particular limits. So what you see over here is just an analysis at the bottom where we had automated a whole lot of stuff, and then where you go into the sort of dark green colors over here is the types of things that you're wanting to get. In this case, what you've got is E. coli, and if we match it with the cyanobacteria sort of setup over here, you're getting an 85% match on perfect matches, and less perfect matches or misses. You can see you're getting fairly low misses and matches associated with that. So using the category matching approach, we were able to improve the results quite considerably, and we also changed certain of the indicators that we're using to run that setup. Okay. So that's the sort of process
If I can perhaps just comment here. Just bear in mind, Jason, we've gone through and sort of unprecedented 18 months or
Yes.
2 years of very, very bad water quality problems in
Yes. Yeah.
more recently. And so those categories are pretty out of date. And yeah, it was something which was done, I think, 2014. So the I think the values there for the highest, the unsatisfactory E is we would be sitting in that category for the vast majority of the time. So those ranges absolutely, and that index absolutely is overdue for an update. So just bear that in mind. Our sort of new normal for water quality is really we have to rethink a lot of things. Thanks.
But just on that, I mean, we've kind of automated that process. So if you change the limits, we can adjust the requirements associated with that. Okay. All right. So the next problem is, from a problem statement perspective, there's a high volume of data for continual processing and analysis. So we've developed a whole lot of scripts that automate categorization and analysis of the water quality information in ArcGIS Pro. I'm finalizing some of those scripts, but the majority of them are running for the majority of the dams. And we've set up some initial water quality dashboards that can assist with continued ongoing monitoring of the situation. And we're going to show you those in a minute. So here, what you see as just in terms of the volumes associated with that, we have changed the color categories to match your water quality indicators that you use for your monthly water quality report. So don't worry about these too much, but here you've got just an example of the sort of loads of data that you're getting out. So mid-Mar, which you can see is generally in the sort of, this is algae that I think we're looking at, in the blue sort of index, and maybe yellow, which is sort of acceptable. And then you see Inanda, which is mostly sort of dark green, which is in the kind of unacceptable or unsatisfactory category. Again, we've changed these, and I'll show you those in a minute. Okay. We've got new satellite water quality limits for the algae, for chlorophyll A, for E. coli and turbidity that we've tested out. We've got mapping updates for all the dams, and we've trying to develop comparative scorings and visualizations, which I'll show you in the next sections. Okay. In terms of the dashboard development, what you've got over here is a setup, and
Sorry, Jason, maybe before you move
Yeah.
ahead. Good morning, everyone. My apologies, I joined a bit late. I had some connection issues. I
Okay.
just wanted to check on the previous slides that you were showing on algorithms, and Kim had some comments.
Yes.
What is possible to do, Kim, there is the latest water quality reports that you're preparing for the 3 dams not going to be helpful in terms of adjusting the limits to improve, because the data or the information used was the outdated paper. So what can be done? Because I'm interested more. What is clear is that some parameters are performing better than others at different dams. So I think we need to single out what is performing better. And I think this aligns with the study that was done by GTI, I think in 2020, 2021, or 2021, 2022, which highlighted that turbidity, chlorophyll A, and total suspended solids were performing well, picked up very well by satellites. But algae, especially when you're using Sentinel-2, please just confirm what you've been using in terms of the satellite now, because I think the recommendation was then to go with Sentinel-3 if you want to pick up algae very well for different dams.
You're asking me that, Fruity, or you're asking?
The first one I think is directed to Kim in terms of the practical way to move forward, especially to adjust the 2014 study and use that information that is latest, especially with the trends that we are currently seeing. Like she was mentioning, the past 2 years has changed everything for us, most especially at the big dams that we are concentrating on here. So is it possible to get the new limits or to use the latest water quality data or reports to then inform the work that you've done with the category limits that you've used?
Good. Well, let's
Yes.
Kim. Yeah.
Footy, it is possible. It needs a bit of work and it needs some thinking, and it's certainly not possible in the short term, just with resource constraints. But yeah, for this to be meaningful, we would have to look at differences in ranges and limits.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Futi, I've invited, so Elna and Mark have joined us. I'm going to start the discussion on the dashboards, and I'm going to actually ask Elna to give a demonstration of the dashboards live. I'm just going to take you through the sort of components associated with them initially. Just in terms of the comments related to if you change the parameters related to the water quality, if you change those parameters, the method that we're using in terms of the scalings is adjustable. So what you see over here, Elna and myself will be able to change those parameters reasonably quickly now because we've kind of automated that process. Okay, but I'm going to take you through the dashboard, initial dashboard development, and then we'll take you to a live dashboard because I think it's quite nice to see these things a little bit more sort of functional related to that. Hi, Elna. Hi, Mark.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah. All right. So from a dashboard development perspective, Elna at GTI has taken a lot of the water quality. So she's taken the information that you've seen with the statistical analysis that's been generated, and she's generated these dashboards. Now we're monitoring all of these dams that you've got across the system at the moment. And the color that you see over here is the color of the dam as it is presently, and I'll have to explain how these stats are calculated in a minute. But essentially what you've got is if you're in the red category or the unsatisfactory category, it means that the majority of pixels that we picked up from the satellite are within that particular category. Okay. And you'll see that these sort of change over time. So if something's in red, then the majority of the dam is in red. It's not going to be 100% red, but it's always going to be, and these also align with, or these colors we've tried to align with your sort of monthly reports that you generate on the water quality. So you have unsatisfactory, poor, satisfactory, good, and then excellent. So something like a blue dam over here would be good, mid-Mar, for instance, in the good sort of category. And this is at that particular date. So this is not the latest date that you've got. So this was sort of mid last year that we're having a look at that. So you can see the difference in the dams. Okay. So that's the first.
Ask a quick question.
Yes, sure.
Jason, yeah. So what is picking up here is fairly what I would expect at that time.
Okay.
So a big dam like Inanda, which is 14 kilometers long, does it differentiate it spatially, or is it just lumped as one dam?
I'll show you the more dashboards, and then we can think. So
sure.
It does differentiate it spatially, but it gives you one indicator overall. Okay, but you'll see now. Okay, so there's your Nanda dam that you see there. What you've seen is this is the next dashboard that you're having a look at from the overall sort of water quality index perspective. Again, you can choose now a date range related to that, and it gives you a time series associated with different categories. So algae is the sort of black line that you see over here, and it's varying. And again, please remember this is the total for the entire dam. Okay, not for individual indicator, because you've got 4 measures in this dam in different spots. I think there's one sort of over here, one around about there, one here, and then one right at the sort of entrance, and that give you different values. All right, and then you've got chlorophyll, which you'll see links kind of to the algae, but not 100%. NCDI, we need to just rename that. That is E. coli index that's sort of coming in, and then turbidity is a different thing. And this turbidity has changed a little bit since we've done it, because we've changed the limits to make it a little bit more sensitive. Right? What you see over here is the information that you get for the particular dam that you are looking at. So when we talk about a analysis associated with that, and you're having a look at the categories, remember it's the pixel count in the actual dam itself that is looking at it. So what you're seeing over here, this is the dam from the satellite that we picked up. And when you're seeing red over here, that's the unsatisfactory category. The brown is the poor category, and then yellow satisfactory, blue is thing. And you can see the spatial variation. You choose your date here again at the top, and what you'll get is the indicator that you're wanting to have a look at. And what you get over here is a count of the type of pixels in this area. So you'll see over here, for instance, there's quite a lot of red associated with that. So that's in the unsatisfactory category. So this gives you a kind of stacked bar chart of those particular things. So the percentage that's in red is over 50% versus that. And then that's why you see a score that's sitting in that value in the sort of red range over there. And then you sort of see these things changing. So this gives you a good idea of how the water quality is changing. So it's very poor in that sort of March period, improved a bit, got worse again, improved. And so that gives you some sort of idea of the timelines. Because you have cloud cover on certain periods, anything where the dam is obscured over sort of 50%, we won't report on. So that's why you kind of see these missing dates over here, which means that there was quite a lot of sort of rainfall, etc., that was happening in those particular periods. So there's Nanda Dam, you can see in general not scoring particularly well, and that compared to something like Mid-Mar, this is a little bit older.
Sorry,
this
Jason.
Sorry, Jason.
yeah. Yes, yeah.
I would like to hear Kim's take on the Nanda around the period with the results that you are showing on this one. Can you relate
can
with
we
this?
go to? I'm just showing this as an introductory to the dashboards. I think let Elna actually show you the dashboards now, and then you can actually discuss some of the elements related to that, because she can then show you different periods with different dams. How's about that?
Okay, no problem.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Elna, are you ready to present?
Hi, it's Samira. Kim's just sent me a message to say that she's
Yeah.
lost connection. She's reconnecting now.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Jason. So like Jason explained, I'm just going to take you through a live demo of the dashboard as it is at the moment. So our
Can you
first,
please wait a bit just for Kim, because we really need her insight together with Samira here. Yeah.
okay, I'll wait a little bit.
Hi everyone, it's Mark here. I'm just going to take the opportunity to say, Footy, it's nice to meet you again. Okay.
Hi, Mark. Hi. It's been a long time.
It's been far too long. Anyway, nice to hear your voice again.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Kim has been battling with the connection. I hope it gets sorted.
We've got Samir who's joined us. Samir, have you got any comments so far with anything that you're having a look at?
Look, it's a lot. I think I haven't been part of this for, from as the project was progressing, but quite interesting results coming out here. I'm sort of like what I'm seeing, but I think maybe let's just continue and then we see how it goes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, because I'm also interested, Samira, on your take on Nyungane, what is currently showing, but also taking into consideration what they're going to present now. Nyungane at that time of 2025, July, I'm not sure whether that's based on overall water quality or a specific parameter. So maybe Jason, you can explain that, or our colleagues from GTI would show us something to be able to analyze what Nungwane is showing for that time of the year last year. EJ, I'm happy.
Yeah, what you've seen over here in July last year that on the showing on the dashboard at the moment is this is specific. I think this is algae that's been shown over here. Now, we can eventually create a combined setup, but at the moment, what you have is a situation where you looking at a specific parameter and then having a look at that. Once we've got an idea of that, we can then sort of combine, let's say, 5 parameters into a single parameter class for the dam, like you do on your monthly reporting. But again, you're not going to have the same variables as your measured stuff. Like if we had a look at, for instance, things like pH and stuff like that, you can't pick up from satellite. So some of the things we haven't even managed to think about looking at, like you might be measuring zinc or some other sort of variable in a specific dam, and we obviously not going to pick those up from satellite.
Okay.
All right, hi
Kim is
Kim, you're
back.
back on. All right.
Yeah, we wait.
So sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
So sorry. I'm having a dreadful Wi-Fi connection today, but hopefully I will be more stable now. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so Elna, go for it. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Go for it.
Good. Thanks, Jason. Good. So the landing page, our first page in the dashboard, gives us a overview of the dams. You are able to select a date. At the moment, we have data for 1 year. There's over 6,000 images going into the dashboard at this moment for all the dams across all the dates. So you can select the dam. If you select, like in this case, the 31st of July, we are lucky we have coverage for all the dams and we can see all the dams. If we don't have all the, that one is good as well. I think this one has a less. So you can see if there's a gray dot, we don't have data for that specific date for that specific image because of cloud coverage. So and then if you just want to zoom in and see dams, let me just go back to this date. We will have all of the dams. If you just want to look at the dams that had excellent condition on that date, you can select that category and it will just show you that specific dam. The poor ones over there, satisfactory, 2 of them, and so on. And you can go back to viewing all the classes. So this is
sorry, it's Kim. Can I just confirm that I understand what you're showing? So, so this is based on the satellite images on those specific dates for where there was clear images, no cloud cover. So then you'll have data, and this is using algae, turbidity, chlorophyll. Is it an index based on our ranges? Can I just clarify what exactly it's showing?
So it is basically what it is. It takes the overall water quality determined by the worst case condition. So say, for instance, algae was the worst one, then it will take that indicator and plot it in the red category.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So algae was the worst, and it's using the ranges that we actually had, which are generic ranges for the whole area. So so it's using those ranges to confirm?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So we tried to translate those ranges into satellite ranges, and that's what we're using now.
And can these range, we spoke a little bit about updating. So could there be site-specific ranges that are put in?
So you would like to have threshold values per indicator per dam specifically?
I'm just asking if that is possible. I don't think we've thought exactly what we'd like to have yet, but I'm just wanting to know, is it possible? Because I know that the index was developed for the operational area and those ranges were applicable. So now we have to have a relook and a rethink, and certain systems are different risk at Mgeni or Tukela Water. So I'd like to know, is it possible that if we wanted to go the route of having system or site-specific ranges, would that be possible?
Jason, I don't know if on your side, but if it will be possible for you, but on my side, if I can get those threshold values for each dam, definitely I can build a lookup table that allocates threshold values based on a specific dam.
Okay, no, thank you. I just want so technically it's possible, and it would be whether that was the route.
Yes. Yeah.
Technically it's possible. I think also Kim associated with that, that's you might, if you want to go that way, you might still want to keep you might want to have two sets of dashboards. You might want to have one which has got overall indicators like you've got here, and one which has got individual indicators. And the reason that I kind of say that is it's quite nice to have a look at variation across the area. Like for instance, you can see that Albert Falls is comparatively worse than Midpark, for instance. So
it's the spatial comparisons versus the trends in time at a specific dam. So there's definitely a need for an overall institutional perspective, but then often it's useful to go deep dive into one dam and see what are because those ranges are now so low, because we weren't experiencing those problems, you would not see variations in time because they would continually be red. And we wouldn't be able to see if within that red category was that dam getting worse. So it's just there are the two perspectives. One is spatial, the one is temporal variations, and with slightly different objectives.
Yeah, I think you'll see the temporal range when we get to the next pages.
So for me also, what is important, as you're saying, you're using an overall indicator with the previous slide or previous dashboard. What tells you, because you were saying that it would pick up the red color based on what was the dominant worse or good parameter. If it was algae, maybe for Admiral Falls, what tells you at this point that it was algae that was dominant, or you'll have to go deep dive into this dashboard? There are areas where you can tell which parameter was the worst.
Yes, I think let me continue with the next pages, and then you will see it will become clear how it's done. So let me continue to the next pages. I think that question will be answered on page 3, but let's just have a quick look at page 2 quickly. So on page 2, you can have a more in-depth look at the specific dam. So if you select Inanda Dam, it will zoom in to that specific location. If you zoom into Mitma, it will go to Mitma, and it will show you all the data for Mitma that's in the database with the date. And if there's no data available for that period, it will also show you that there are none available. Then you have the time series so that you can have a look at how the indicators move throughout the assessment period according to the overall water classification classes. You can select shorter periods if you just want to look at maybe half a year's worth of data. The time series will shorten, and then you only will have a look at that data. the little indicator will also jump to represent the status of the dam at the first date that you have selected.
We've
And
got
then
two hands, Jason. There's a hand from Mark and a hand from Kim. Maybe they're interested in this particular slide.
Thanks, Futi. Just a quick comment. If at the moment what Ellen is showing is the overall water quality, which is based on the dominant worst case water quality indicator, there's no issue if you decide that, for example, algae is going to be the index on which overall water quality is taken regardless of anything else. We are just using at the moment the overall water quality index is based on the worst case of all of those 4 different water quality parameters. Just making that clear. So if you said that algae was, it was more important than everything else, we just changed the overall water quality scoring to be based on that one, not which is the worst of all of those 4.
yeah, that's possible.
Go for it, Kim.
Thank you, Mark. Just a comment, just from a sort of intuitive and a display perspective. The time series plots are, for me, not intuitive, because I would reverse the y-axis, because when you're looking at a result which is high, it's unsatisfactory. So I would put unsatisfactory on the top. So when the time series plot goes up, it's indicating a worse result, and when it's a low water quality result, it's excellent. So just intuitively, and I don't know, maybe others can comment on it, but intuitively the y-axis needs to be reversed of that display for the time series.
Unsatisfactory at the top and excellent at the bottom, essentially, is what you're requesting.
That is my perspective, but maybe others can come in and also indicate. It's like when you draw a time series graph of water quality data, your high results are always at the top, and the ones that are like 5 E. coli are at the bottom, and the ones that are 2,000 E. coli are at the top. So just logically, from a intuition perspective, the graph for me is, the time series is to read. It's not what I expect to see in my brain.
Kim,
But
Kim,
Yeah.
it's just a
I
perspective.
support what Kim is saying.
Yeah. Those are 100% cosmetic changes. I mean, so if that's what you would
Yes.
need, that is not an issue. One of the reasons we've already done something similar internally between GTI and EcoSource is work through all the cosmetic changes we've thought would make much more sense. But obviously, if that is something that suits your preference, absolutely, not a problem.
Yeah, it's just a sorting. It was 5 minutes to change that around, so it's not a problem to change that. Okay, so
can you also just go back to Midmar again? I just want to show something to Kim. So Kim, in terms of these results over here, what you see with Midmar, so the algae indicator would be more related to your cyanobacteria, for instance, and your chlorophyll indicator would probably be more related to the largeness of you're talking about the different types of algae that you're getting in these different areas. So what you can see is that Midmar is much more sensitive to the chlorophyll indicator than it is to that other algae indicator that we had there. And it seems to reflect in the results quite nicely associated with that. So what you'll see is, you remember those initial results that we had, Midmar was actually coming out as bad or worse than Albert Falls, and now this new approach has actually allowed us to categorize them much better, and you'll see the results for Albert Falls and Nagel, for instance, are much worse than Midmar.
Yeah, it makes far more logical sense, because algae in Midmar is very low in the bigger scheme of things. Okay, I'm not too familiar with the exact date range, but it would be often below 2,000, whereas probably at the same time we had maybe up to 200,000 in Albert Falls, and yes, but you're still picking up. I'm seeing with the chlorophyll we're still picking up, yeah, quite a bit of chlorophyll, which does make sense in terms of the type of algae that's there. Just refresh me, what is the NDCI?
So sorry, that needs to be changed. It's
E. coli.
it's E. coli.
Okay.
We've got the naming convention wrong there. It's the satellite indicator that's been put down instead of the E. coli indicator. So yeah, I mean E. coli is obviously not much of a problem, and the turbidity range has changed slightly, so it's a bit more sensitive now. Anyway,
Jason,
thanks.
can I just make, sorry, just keep it there, Eleanor. Sorry, one extra comment, Kim, just so people realize it. The overall water quality score as displayed now is based on the worst case scenario for that timeline. So if you actually change the timeline, Eleanor, and actually make it much shorter and maybe bring it back before or between, say, May and November, so we don't go into the brown, you'll see that the water quality changes. So you do have to bear in mind that the overall water quality is, as illustrated, is indicated by the timeline that you have selected.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's saying that for the most of the time, it was excellent for the date range that you selected. Is that what it's saying?
Yes.
Okay. It
So the
can
date range is the
be
controlling factor
a
for the
little
stats.
misleading if you set a very long date range, and then what based on what, so if you happen to set it for a year, would it be looking again at the worst case, but probably not because you've got some excellence and some good. So is it looking at the average? Because averaging is not always meaningful. It would just have to come with, because the way it gets used sometimes is used out of context, and people that develop it will actually know and understand. And it's actually been very similar with that water quality index. It's not meaningful at an annual time scale.
Yeah.
At a monthly time scale, it's much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why the third tab that Eleanor's going to show you is so important, where you actually see it within that time frame. Remember as well, we could, if this was a necessity, have an internal version of the dashboard and if you wanted to, a public-facing version of the dashboard with far more limited interactions for the public if you need to do that. Okay, so that there is low confusion by non-specialist users.
You'd have to, limit what they could actually do. I think that would
I
be
don't
an
even think
important thing.
I don't even think you'd limit it. You'd cap it so that there are padlocks that they can't do anything basically. But if that's what you wanted, yes.
I think
Yeah,
also
it could also. Sorry, Jason, come in.
Yeah, so just to add to Mark's and your comments here, Kim, the idea of the dashboard is that you can zoom in and zoom out to specific areas, because exactly the issue that you have is like an average indicator or whatever indicator that you choose to represent the entire dam is never going to give you the full sort of perspective on the actual dam itself. And the reality is that there's spatial averaging issues that you have and time averaging issues that you have. And that's kind of why what you'll see now with what Elna has done is it allows you to drill down into the actual dams and then kind of see the individual time slots that you're having a look at and how the sort of dam is progressing in terms of its water quality. But yes, I mean, at any stage, choosing an overall indicator for a dam over a specific period of time or an entire dam is always going to be slightly problematic associated with these things.
And then I think just, following on from that discussion a little on the possibility of an internal versus an external view, and we'd have to really think about what the objective of that view is, and possibly what would be a priority from an internal perspective is more of a treatability slant, because we are very interested in what are the treatment problems going to be associated, and there might need to be a specific view for with the parameters that are associated more with treatability. Turbidity, especially in the ranges we're talking about, is not really going to be causing a water quality problem or a treatability problem. E. coli, also at those levels, we don't expect to see much in dams, but we've got lots of barriers in place for that. But what is causing us big problems at Mgeni is the algae, and we are definitely seeing the differences in the algae and the chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is definitely one indicator, and it's usually something which is used at a national scale with national monitoring programs and to give you broad brush indicators of trophic status. But it's more the algae that is meaningful for our ops colleagues. But yeah, no, it's looking more intuitive compared to what I've seen before, and following what I can see on the data more than what we have actually experienced before.
Yeah.
Just to check also there. So this is something that we can possibly build on, Kim, and can be useful, because what we're trying to do with this project, the idea was to help us for decision making, because you're talking about treatability issues, especially around algae. So there can be something that we can be able to take out of this and can possibly be useful for West End operations.
Yeah, I think let's see the rest of the presentation and see, now we're getting down to the detail, and it's useful to see with a dam like Inanda. Elna, I'm just confirming you've got still the limited data set, so you obviously can't show any of the 2026 data to us.
No, unfortunately not. I can always process the data, and then we can have a look again. This was just to put together a proof of concept. So the other data is available. It will just take a little bit of time to process it to get it into the database, and then it will be ready for display as well. So the data is there, it's been generated, the raster data, but it needs a little bit of processing to get it into the database for the dashboard. But surely I can put it in. I can put another 2 years of data in as well. If there are specific ones that you want me to do first, like 2026 and maybe another year or two, I can do that as well.
I think comments on that, Kim, is I'll also be able to show you some of these results because I have mapped them out in a different process. So we can show you some of the 2026 elements. You just won't see them on the dashboard at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would like to see, and if we're talking sort of proof of concept, is we have seen a very specific change in Inanda Dam from April 2026 to now. And Inanda Dam has always shown a very typical pattern like what you see in your right-hand dam image there. That is the very typical pattern for Inanda, and that is exactly what I would expect. And now we are seeing almost a very different pattern coming out with this red right at the main basin, and actually the inflow of the dam being different. So it's actually physically moved the algae, and the assimilative capacity in the dam has actually changed significantly. And I would, if we are looking at proof of concepts now, if it picked it up, it would be good. If it did not pick it up, it would not be helpful for us. So even if my feeling is if we are talking about proof of concept, we would need to be sure that this dashboard and this option would be able to pick up those kind of changes visually. Yeah.
But I'm just going to share very quickly. Just want to show something to can you see my screen? Let me change the view here a little bit.
Yes.
Sorry, just let me get down to the bottom here again. 2024. All right, so when I was talking about the mapping related to these, so that's 2024 sort of going through. 2025 or the end of 2024, and then what we've seen, if we get down to here, the last couple of months of 2026, so you're starting to see what you're talking about there. Sorry, that's another set of indicators I was having a look at. So there, this is the type of thing that you're starting to see in the actual dam itself. And in March, you were having some serious problems with the Nanda. So that's essentially the scoring for the algae that you're getting at the moment. I think the last one was
So
April.
Jason, this is definitely based on algae, hey? So what happened in the next image, the 23rd? Why is that cloud cover?
That's cloud, yeah. So if you see it like that, it's just it's all cloud cover. So there'll be like 1 or 2 dots. So in the dashboard, these are thrown out. And when I'm mapping them like this, if there's a little piece of dam that's exposed, then it also records it as a non-cloud cover thing. So when you see over here, like that light blue color it's an indicator of the background of the dam. It's not the dam. So there's lots of cloud cover here, and that's why that's showing. So yes, you're correct. It's cloud cover.
And can we just go down a bit? I'd like to just see what we're looking at here, because this is going to give me a good indication. So if you could just maybe few images.
Further down is it starts again, because I was looking at a different algae indicator there. So
okay.
the latest date that I've mapped out here is the 4th. I can try and run some. I can probably run a couple of later dates for you, but I just wanted to show you that we are picking up that image that you were wanting to do. So let me see if I can process till June, and let Elna continue with the dashboard indicator while I do that. I'll try and put that into this section now. Okay.
Okay, so that does show the kinds of things that we if you compare, January's image, if you look at the second one down, is a typical one that we would have expected over our years of history with Inanda. Yeah. And then you actually realize when the cloud cover comes, it's you miss out quite a lot. But then the one at the end of January, you've already, 27th of January, you've already got the problems moving forward, and then it progresses through to the 18th of March. And then I think what you will probably see, but it would be interesting for me, is that you would see that the mid dam to the main basin would remain red, and you might see in June some lower counts in the upper dam. But yes, I would be quite interested to just see maybe the images for 2026 for Inanda, because it would be we're very familiar with what's happening, and if it moves that.
You are seeing those. So I'm going to ask Elna to do that, and I'll try and process the last couple of months for you, and show those for you now. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Elna take over again.
Okay. So just back at on page 3. So once again, you can select your dam, and you can select your different indicators over here, and your date range, and then in the stack bar graph, you can see that the graph actually represents the majority or the percentages that is in the dam for that specific class. So over here, our first date, the 27th of January, you can see that the majority of the dam is in the red or unsatisfactory class, and this is also showed over here in this specific bar over here. And if you go through the time series to this one, to the 23rd of December, this one, you will see that the majority is blue, some spots of red. It's actually, I think, probably the third highest class. You can see it is also represented like that. And this is how I also get to the color of the dot on the first page. So if you select a date there and it is the 27th, then that dot will be red. And if it's the 23rd of December, the date on the first page, the dot will be blue. So that is just how that page is set up to work at the moment. We can change it if we want. And then this is just again the bands for the specific indicator that you've selected at the top, and it will take you through the whole time series of that specific indicator as well. So this over here, it will just show you the percentage of the different classes within the last date that you have selected over here. If you select another date, then this will update again. The histogram percentages for that specific dam.
Oh no, sorry, can I just ask? Now this the image on the right here, the dam, why is it sort of spotty like that? What does that mean? Is there like bits of blue and red mixed together? You know, why does it look like that?
Yeah, so this is based on the raster data. The Sentinel-2 data is 10 meter data. So for each 10 by 10 meter area, we do an assessment of that pixel. And if that pixel is different from the one next to him, and according to the thresholds, then it will look a little bit spotty.
So it's quite, you know, it's quite variable that you've got sort of excellent right next to unsatisfactory, but it can be like that with algae because you can have wind blowing it into like certain areas, and yeah, it is quite interesting for me. And the little bays are also worse than if you look more in the main basin area, the little bays are worse than the main area of the dam, which does make sense. But yeah, at that curve of the mid dam, you've got a lot of algae accumulating there, which yeah, quite interesting. But yeah, sometimes it seems quite homogeneous and other times it doesn't.
Yeah, I think it might be, like you mentioned, the wind, if it's a still calm day, then you might get images that looks more like this, and then on a more windy day, they can probably look more like this. Yeah, so it's just interesting to go through the patterns as well. There's the chlorophyll one for the same period. So
it's Samira. Can I ask a question? Please forgive me.
Yes.
It's just related to what Kim is saying. I know we said that with cloud cover you won't get that data, you get the gray shading, but could it be irradiance because it's such a large body of water? Could that be sort of affecting that result? So that's why we're seeing so much of patchiness?
Sorry, irradiance.
Yeah, like the reflection of the sunlight on the water body. Could that affect the satellite reading?
No, I don't think so. No.
And for me,
then you can comment on that. Yeah.
Can I ask, is it not the changes that were starting to happen looking at the data as well? For me, I don't think it's the patches, but it could be the mixing and the changing of the water quality. Isn't it not going towards what we are currently seeing, but it's happened over time from that period going into December, January, February, and then it was even worse in April.
This one is like so it's August last year. We weren't really having those issues then. Futi, I think it's more localized effects of winds there. That's why I'm very interested to see these images as they go. And I'm very interested because so it's providing perhaps a little different data here. Then we obviously get like 5 sampling points. We don't get the bays, we don't get the other bits and pieces. I want to specifically pick up if this shows anything before our data shows anything. That would, for me, would be useful. So that's why I think it would be interesting to do a bit of a deep dive into Inanda as part of a proof of concept from January to June, and to compare it to what we are picking up on our data to see now, is the spottiness maybe the change is happening? You might have something there. What is a bit odd is the red next to the blue, because that's like on the opposite ends. But yeah, that would all be useful.
So just a couple of sort of comments from my perspective. So look, I mean, we can't expect that the satellite image is going to be perfect the whole time, and there are certain interferences that will potentially cause the types of patterns that you've sort of seen in these areas, and that's kind of why we've chosen these the representations of the bar charts and stuff like that. Some of the red areas on the side might also be shadow effects and stuff like that, which we might not have been able to eliminate 100% from those particular dam setups and stuff, and we can discuss the improvement related to those types of anomalies, if you like, related to that. I see that Mark's on hold because he can actually comment more on the image capture elements associated with that. So just in terms of what we're looking at here at the moment, is I think it gives you a good idea of the spatial patterns and the spatial distribution, but having a look at one pixel compared to the one next to it is never going to be 100% accurate, because you're going to have issues that are related to that. Kim, the other thing that I can sort of indicate from the perspective of what we dealing with a lot of these setups that you have over here is I think, I mean, this process is something that can be refined, but I've also got a little bit later in the presentation, so I haven't I'm letting Elna show you the dashboards, but I have got some comparisons related to potentially what you would like to see related to measured water quality versus actual water quality, and how those sort of transform through these systems. So we can discuss that, because that's actually one of the things that I really wanted to pick up and discuss with you, is kind of the analysis of the results and how to present those. But I also need to get more data from you, because there's certain data ranges. I mean, I haven't got all of the water quality measured data at certain times, so just be aware of that. Okay.
Sure. No, that's critical, that it's showing us something which is actually meaningful. And I'm fairly, the algae and the chlorophyll is looking logical, and I think I would like to ask Elna to go back to Inanda and show me turbidity, and just I'd like to see what it's looking like there. But I don't know how meaningful the E. coli one would be, but that's still to be determined. But if we could look at turbidity, that would be interesting.
That's E. coli.
That's E. coli. So okay. So from a broad brush, the E. coli is.
Oh, okay. This is the one that you're having a little bit of a problem with at the moment with things.
Yeah.
Kim, I'll show you turbidity just now on these images, because this processing and the I think that you're picking up too much of a no data value and stuff like that.
Something's not logical there.
No, it's the no data value. It's not consistent with the no data value of the other indicators, so I have to adjust that individually. So I'll get to that as well, and then I'll add the data for 2026, and then I can even share some screenshots with Jason, or we can have another session so that I can demo that as well. Jason, is there something else that you would like me to show? Or I know there were some of the cases that was really interesting for you that that we had a look at the other day?
Well, I think that the interest from my side of things, Kim, if you so one of the things was having a look at something like the same algae values. So if we go to just go to Midmar for instance and just switch on algae. Uh, So what you see over here, Kim, is in that particular date range of the 2025 is, Midmar is in reasonably good nick for most of the time. I mean, there are some areas where you've got that Impopoleni sort of stuff sort of coming in where you can see it's quite bad in some of those sections. Now, if you just change it, let's go to Albert Falls, for instance.
Sorry, can I just, if you don't mind me just asking a couple of questions here. So in the right image, why is there all that shadow on the, because, obviously for us, very important to get close to the wall because that's where the abstraction is.
Yeah, it's
So-
cloud cover.
Cloud cover, okay.
Yeah.
Can you please just show me E. coli for Midmar as well? I want to see if Mpupameni arm comes up with E. coli.
Yeah,
So it doesn't.
well, it's not picking up on this E. coli. There was a second E. coli indicator that we can also discuss, Kim, and have a look at those sections. But yeah, I mean, for the main
Because
section, it's not picking up.
We
Yeah,
would anticipate that if there was any area that would not be excellent, it would be Mpupameni arm. So it's this on the that arm at the bottom. Okay, so if we can look at it at Albert Falls now.
yeah. So let's go back to algae again. So there you got the Albert Falls date range, and what you can see is, what's quite interesting from my sort of perspective, having a look at these, is that we can see that sort of May-ish time period. I mean, the dam wasn't as in a poor state, but it wasn't that bad. But then, as all of a sudden, in sort of July, it really kicks into a horrible sort of state and gets much worse related to that. And I think you can also see that on the time series graph just below that. As
see
the
the
sort of
change.
dominant category changes, yeah. And what's quite interesting is if we have a look at this and then you have a look at Nagel, you'll see that Nagel follows this, but it's about a month behind also in terms of that sort of overterming.
It's sort of fairly.
Yeah, so there we go.
I won't say that makes that much sense that okay. Do you know what is absolutely critical at this point is to cross-link it to our data and say, does it show what we picked up? If we go back to the Albert Falls, I'm surprised it's not worse. In fact, I'm very surprised it's not unsatisfactory considering so January would be a time that we did have a lot of problems. I know we had a quietish month around May and June 2025, and then it did actually start as early as July. The previous year, it picked up in August, the 2024. So maybe can you give me the 2024 date range? I just want to see now.
I don't think we've got 2024.
Okay.
But again,
So Albert Falls, the big challenges started in August 2024. So it would be interesting, but for me, okay, what we're seeing in December is what we know of it, and this is what we commonly experience. So this is algae, not chlorophyll here. So perhaps if we can also see chlorophyll. So it's matching to some extent. I won't say it's a perfect match, but just to some extent.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are seeing, and maybe this points to things like ranges and that, because the dam moved from a mesotrophic state to a hypertrophic state, and in this period, I think the chlorophyll range went up to greater than 30, but we were seeing average chlorophylls of like 70, 80 for a long period of time, and so this is more what I expected to see, but interesting. But definitely.
Kim, just a comment on that. It's also, I mean, one of the aspects that is quite important to consider is also where your water quality measuring point is. So you must
Sorry,
remember this is
where the
showing the
water
entire
quality
dam.
what? Yes,
Measuring
our
point
sample,
is, yeah, so
yeah. So ours
yeah,
is a main basin, just near the wall there.
yeah.
But yes, and that
So
is what you'd need to correlate at that place, yeah.
yeah, so we have kind of correlated, so we've tried to match those, but so you've seen the spatial distribution pattern here. So what you've seen in terms of the overall dam might be slightly, well, it's different to what you'd see at the walk specifically.
Yes.
So if you go back to, just go back to Albert,
Sorry,
to algae
just
there
sorry,
again.
just before you go down, can I just quickly look at the time series? Because I also want to see the okay, so this matches a little more of our problems and our problem genus that we remember. I said to you we had a quieter period, a little bit quieter around May and June.
Yeah.
And then middle of July was when we kicked in again with the problems. So this quite well matches what we experienced. So
Yeah,
chlorophyll seems to be quite a useful, well, in
indicator.
this instance, it's useful for an indicator of our treatability challenges. Okay, no
Let's have a
problem.
look at algae again there on that point. I just want to, because I think that shows it's similar sort of pattern. It's just algae is a bit more sort of positive, I guess, related to that. But again, if you have a look at the sort of wall area, you'll see that it's worse in these images than it is maybe in the upstream areas, and that's potentially why you get a little bit more of a thing. But that's what you were talking about in terms of mid-July. It sort of starts to kick off and get worse. But the January period is not it's not kicking off as bad. Anyway, yeah, I mean that's great. Well done, Kim. I'll show you some of the elements related to that. Sorry, the reason that that I'm not able to show you the last bit of June is it looks like the images haven't come through onto my computer. They'll probably be on your side, so I'll have to get Rudolph to download those. But yeah, Elna and Mark, you're welcome to stay. But if you're wanting to step off now, I can discuss other things with Kim at the moment if you like. But I mean, either way, I'm not really worried.
Okay.
I will step off if I can do, but thank you very much and
Me
apologies for
too.
having to just jump out anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
thanks. I'll be in touch with Jason again with the updates and the processing of the extra data. Thanks everyone.
Excellent.
Have a good day. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank
Bye bye,
you.
everyone. Bye bye.
All right. Well done, Elna, by the way. It's a fantastic job of
Thank you.
doing it. All right. Sorry, Kim, I just wanted to pick up some other elements related to this. So the satellite water quality, the other problem is a problem statement is conveying information on satellite monitoring performance is difficult. The statistical analysis doesn't seem to communicate the accuracy of the system effectively. So we've applied the category matching method. We've developed a method of statistically defining performance that enables comparative analysis, and then show graphs of progressing water quality elements related to this. Now, I'm needing to update the graphs that I'm about to show you, but I was trying to get certain parameters out, but I've only got data up to sort of mid 2025, I think, on these sort of setups here. So this is Nagle Dam that we're having a look at, and this is specifically the algae indicator that sort of having a look at associated with that. So what I kind of wanted to show you here, Kim, relating to these types of things, and again, if we adjust the limits, so what you've seen over here, a lot of this can be adjusted, and this is kind of what I wanted to discuss with you in previous a while back, just before you got injured, is how to set these different limits, because we can change the limits to make them look to reflect the sort of measured data a little bit more effectively. Now, where the measurement point on Nagle Dam is sitting over here somewhere, I think. Is that correct, or am I incorrect?
There's 2 points. There's one on that curve, which is where the new abstraction is. So there's an integrated
Yes.
point on that curve, and then there's one at the main basin near the wall. So there's 2 sample
Near the
points.
wall. Okay, all right. So I'm not quite sure. So the bottom over here is the algae sort of measurements at one of those points. I don't know which one it is. So the point that I was sort of wanting to show you over here is what you're picking up. So this date range that you see at the front over here to May is roughly the same period that you're having a look at. And what you're seeing over here is this is the measured value. So what I've done over here, I just let's see if I can find the I was trying to figure out how to show these sort of things compared to each other. So this is the measured data that we've got for this particular date range. And again, I need to just get the full sample of the latest, up to the latest data. This is the algae count, the chlorophyll, E. coli, and turbidity. These are the ranges that have been given to us by you in that previous paper. So you can see over here, for instance, algae count. So the measure is okay. So we've got a bit back to front here, but algae count is going from 1 through to 5. So 1 is bad and 5 is good, essentially. But we'll flip those around because your category, we can change the categories for you there. Anyway, what I'm trying to show you here is so we'll invert these pictures, but algae categories, so these are the kind of measured results that you're getting for the different things, E. coli and turbidity. And then I'm trying to take those then and compare them to what you're getting. So in this particular case, Nagle Dam, and it's probably more in the thing, you're going to be in the poor to bad range, and then it sort of pops up in May, and that's kind of what you see in terms of the monitoring related to that. So that's a sort of comparison associated with that. And again, I just need more
Jason,
data so I
sorry,
can show these comparisons. Yeah.
Yeah, can I just ask a question here? So the data, according to our ranges, is red, 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 brown. So the satellite image is showing brown, brown, brown up to blue. So is that just a question of getting the ranges right?
Well, yeah. So
Because that's
it's also
not the pattern is the same, but the magnitudes are very different.
yeah. So Kim, I need to do a little bit better of an analysis associated with that and these types of things. When I was having a look at the category matching related to that, so there's a number of issues that you could have over here. Nagle's also probably not necessarily the best dam related to some of these things because it does change quite quickly when certain things change in the catchment.
It's a small dam. It's a small dam, and it has a sort of shorter residence time. Whereas probably if you're looking more for proof of concept in Nando, will show you things, and possibly Nagle or Outward Falls.
Yeah, so it's probably, but in terms of this, I mean, it's just important to remember that these are averages, and also what can happen. So what you see over here on the left side is, there's that blue sort of patch in the middle there is cloud cover. So what can happen is we're only reporting on the cells that are not cloud cover. So sometimes what you might have is cloud cover sits over a high portion of the dam that's actually discovered. So these stats can become a little bit distorted in terms of what they're representing. And that's why you might get a jump like that. We're not going to get to perfection related to that, but I think the fact that you've seen the general trend. So, in terms of this, you might be by adjusting the categories, you might see that drops, but you'll still get the same perspectives in terms of the trends that you're having a look at there. I mean, we're not going to be able to resolve all of those issues. There are different indicators which give slightly different results in spatial distributions. So some of them, for instance, algae, there's 2 indicators that are pretty good, not just one. So we could also try the other indicator and see the difference between the 2. But again, I mean, the pattern is quite relevant, and yes, it could have jumped up there because of a cloud cover issue or something else. And the other problem that you have is the synchronization of these things is quite difficult. It was actually one of the suggestions that I did is synchronizing your sampling to satellite passes is the same. So you're not necessarily
Jason,
looking at the same
you're
data.
making me laugh now because our sampling services coordinator would absolutely kill you if she was told to synchronize it according to the satellites. She has enough headaches.
Okay.
Not a realistic or not a reasonable suggestion.
Okay. All right, but that would obviously improve correlations and we'd get better results. But obviously it can't be done. But at least we've seen the trend there. So that's Nagel. This is Ananda. So again, you've seen Ananda with sort of generally sort of bad quality, then it improves, and then it gets a bit worse again, then it improves again. And what we see over here is
the critical thing is with the measured data, I would need to know which sample point you're referring to because there are 5 sample points in it.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was going to try and show you each of the sample points.
Is that the main basin? I don't know which one.
I think it's sitting over here it was the 2.5. Let me just check.
Okay.
Just one sec. 4.5. So it's the mid sort of basin area. Yeah. And there's those.
Okay. Yeah.
So if we go back to.
So, I think what would happen is we'd have to have a rigorous assessment of the matching with the measured data. Yeah. I understand that generally it's showing a similar spatial pattern. But yeah, I think it would be worth looking into it in quite a bit of detail.
I mean, that's where it gets a little bit difficult because that's kind of what we've done here with this category matching. The problem is like to show these stats, etc., and then represent it on a graph is difficult. So what you've seen over here is you do get reasonably good category matches associated with that and the stats associated with those category matches. So you get an overall thing, but it's not going to ever be 100%. So we've got a perfect match, and then you've got category 1 misses, category 2 misses. So it depends how you have a look at that. So we've gone and taken as much as we can related to this and then put it in. But I think it's not very intuitive seeing it in statistical sort of elements related to that. And I guess that's why you have the problems. And here we have sort of turbidity associated with that. Okay, Elna was having problems with the turbidity here, so don't worry about it. But you can see these sort of trends where you've got it there. You're kind of seeing the sort of changes across that actually reflect what's happening. So it goes from a sort of greenish position to the blue positions, which you see at the end over here. But again, I agree with you. You need to find some way of representing it in these time series. The problem that I have over here is I just need more of the actual raw quality data, and then we can work to do that. So I was kind of working towards those elements. It's just, like I said, I haven't got all of the data, but I think I've got a process now where we can actually do a reasonable comparison, because these, if I get the data in and I can do it like this, then it gives me a better chance of trying to represent it for you better, so you can see these patterns a bit better. Are there any further questions there, Kim?
No, I think from my side, I've seen, that I'm happy with that. Thank you. I don't know, Sam, is there anything else from yours?
No, nothing from my side.
Okay. All right,
So maybe for my side, Jason, It's the
Yes.
way forward that is important. What we were seeing, I think there is some way forward we identified with what we were seeing on Elna's dashboard. I think we wanted to see the 2026 data, if that can be updated, and maybe it will show us what it looks like. Because the most important thing is to be able to see if this can be useful for decision making, or to even try and improve it. I do see a lot of improvement, but it's also different dams behaving differently. And I think, given that this is something that's DSI, Department of Science and Innovation, is interested in improving further, and it's already being tested in our dams, I would like to see it through, if we can be able to be part of the process to get it to a point where it can be useful, understanding that this is still stuff that is being researched, but it will get to a point where it can improve for different parameters, and I would like us to be part of that.
Yeah. Sorry, I did try and update this, but I don't think I've got all of the data. So I'm just having a look at the, let's just see the processing here. Yeah, it's not finding dates after that April period. So I don't know whether this is downloaded onto the server. So I'll have to check that. So sorry about that, Kim. It's just not 2605 there. So I can't show you the last couple of dates, but you can see the. I was hoping that I had everything there. Yeah, so I'm quite happy. I think, Futi, I mean, there's a major improvement in the results from the first sets that we've had, and I think these kind of match what you're intuitively expecting. But yes, we just need to be a bit more rigorous on the testing associated with that. So yeah, I'm happy with
Probably
that.
also reversing those graphs so that they make more sense when you visualizing them, in terms of flipping them around, like Kim was asking.
Yes, definitely we can do that. Yeah, that's not a problem.
You know, Futi, I think you and Sam must have perhaps a offline discussion on what is required, and the involvement of various departments, and how we support this. And there are some very specific, if we want to do just a little more now to actually assess the usefulness, I think the Inanda case study of the current experiences would be useful to update for. So, but Fuji, I think we need to have a discussion just once we've seen once we've seen the presentations and have absorbed the information. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you so much for that.
So I'm happy with that. So I think we'll discuss way forwards associated with that. Kim, I know that you've got a cut off at 11, so I just want to go through some of the other aspects related to the project. So the SWOT modeling, the flow results were reasonable. The water quality results are not very good. The model calibration has been done with some new data, and there were problems associated with a lot of the data. There needs to be better information from water quality from the wastewater treatment works. Most of the wastewater treatment works, we have to put in average assessments, etc. And there's no real sort of measured kind of outflow. So we don't know how much. Not only do you not know the water quality, or even if we've got water quality variables, we don't know how much they were discharging. So there's elements associated with that are problematic. The other rural areas like feedlots, chicken farms, dairies also cause issues, as well as some of the parameterization of fertilization and stuff to improve the model have been looked at. Better sewage leakage data we've also had a kind of look at related to that. So the model performance is likely to improve, and we are working on that at the moment. Now, this is important because it kind of becomes an input into the limnology modeling that you're about to show you over here. So the reservoir hydrodynamics and limnology, we've had a look at. Initial results have been encouraging. combining the SWOT with measured information. And we've used the eutrophication template. 3 dams have been configured: Ananda, Midmar, and Albert Falls. Ananda is a 3D model, Midmar is a 2D model, and Albert Falls is a 2D model. Just giving you an idea of the input. So we get the sort of contours related to a particular dam. Those contours are then translated into a surface that we get related to that, and then those are put into a grid format that you kind of see over here, which is it's not a regular grid, it's a triangular irregular network. And then having a look at these sort of dams, just trying to get an idea of the types of patterns that we've seen through this lot. So this is Ananda Dam, and here we see a bad water quality coming through in a particular plume, and that's sort of how it migrates through the dam. And what's quite nice about this is if we take that information and we combine it with information giving similar colors to the satellite information over a similar period, you can see that the distribution of that water quality plume as it moves forward through these things improves quite considerably. There are some adjustments that I need to make related to a couple of these models, but they actually are performing quite well. Similar sort of thing that we have with Albert Falls, etc., going through. And I'll just let me show you the actual model very quickly. Just want to see. Yeah, so here, for instance, is I think so. There's a whole lot of parameters that we model, and related to these, like phytoplankton C, for instance, is the carbon-based phytoplankton, which is equivalent to the algae. Certainly, these detritus factors are equivalent to some of the turbidity sort of elements associated, and so you've got different aspects. And then chlorophyll's obviously linked to chlorophyll, so you can sort of see these things and have a look at it. So that's having a look at the sort of distribution related to inputs coming in from some of the tributary areas, and then the spread through the dam related to that. So that's one that you've already seen. Chlorophyll, we can also sort of show. Let me just check the colors here. Open a palette. Okay, so the chlorophyll palette's going to be slightly different, and just run through. So it'll show you a similar pattern associated with that. Chlorophyll a little bit more sort of vigorous, if you like, than the rest of these things. You can see you're getting some transformations associated with that. And then similarly, that's Ananda. This is Albert Falls. So you can have a look and see how the sort of Albert Falls distribution comes through. What we've seen over here is the dam's filling up a little bit too much. So what generally actually happens is we expect more algae formation along this sort of section over here, but it's driven by flow around this sort of exposed island area. That's I think so we weren't getting quite the results that we'd expect here, but it gives you some idea of that. And I think it's quite useful to have these models run so that you can actually kind of see how the water quality distributions change over time, and it gives you an idea of if you're getting heavy influxes coming in from certain areas, how long it's going to take to potentially impact your water treatment areas related to that.
Sorry, it's Kim. I was kicked out again. My VPN at work kicks me out. Please, can you show me Ananda again, and just also explain to me over what date range you're talking about?
Okay. Let's go back to Ananda. Yeah, I actually need to have a look over here. So let's go back to start over here. So that's the 12th, and at the end, if we go through seconds, so it's about a 3-month period.
It's 3 months. Okay, which months?
So this is between 2020. So again, it depends. I needed data certain ranges. So this is, it's the. Sorry, let me just see that again.
No, was it a summer period with high flows or a winter period where there were less flows? Was it a sort of a flooding time, 2021, 20 or 22, 23, or is a drier period more recently? Just so that we can
It's a
understand the movement.
summer
Because
period,
this
so
dam,
you're getting it from it's the 24th of the 12th, 2019. And that's running through to, just play it again. So that's running through to roughly to February.
okay. So it's the high rainfall, higher flow times, and
Yes, yeah.
so it's modeling. This is the chlorophyll, how it's yeah.
Yeah.
That to an extent does make sense because we do see the problems in Inanda more in the February, March, April time rather than the earlier portions. But okay, no, thank
Yeah,
you.
well, it could spread through. Kim, these runs. So this was done a while back, but we can improve these and we can run much longer time steps now. And the reason for that, so these simulations are very complicated. These are thousands of grid points that are running through the system with different parameters and different elements associated with them. But we've got a whole lot of new GPU processors that can process faster than we had when we were doing these simulations. So it's possible to run some of these simulations with different date ranges better. But at this particular case, but I do need measured data, and I have to have measured data for the input time periods and these types of things. And I also need not only the measured data, but unfortunately, certain of your other areas are not measured, like the inputs from some of these tributaries are not measured. So I need to use the SWOT information related to that. So unfortunately, I need a synchronized when you guys have measured, plus when we've got certain simulations from the SWOT stuff, input with the rainfall, etc. And the earliest sort of simulations that we're looking at is, I think we can probably go to about 2023 with all of that data. But then after that period, we kind of run out of it because we haven't got everything updated for all of the different parameters.
Okay. No, thank you. This sort of mirrors what I would think about the way in which the dam used to function. But as I said, in 2026, we've seen a very different set of results. But I understand you wouldn't be able to provide this kind of information.
We could, if we just get better models and get some things. I mean, we could potentially approximate some more of the inputs from these external areas and the measured data on the inputs from certain of your water quality, because you are measuring some of the water quality here. We can get that with the flows, and we should be able to then simulate a more recent time period. But I'm just warning that it isn't that easy to do, but it is something that we could definitely have a look at and understand these sort of things, because it's quite nice to understand these patterns and to understand the distribution and spread of the water quality through these dams. And then what you can do with these different scenarios, is you could then have an empty dam with a high inflow versus a full dam with the high inflow. You'll get very different patterns and stuff. So you can start to compare some of those types of scenarios. So these results are pretty encouraging, but obviously we would need to find the scenarios and discuss how to use it in a little bit more detail.
I think maybe just as a general discussion for this team, we are concerned we are going into a period of El Nino, And we are quite concerned about what is going to happen in terms of the reduced flushing in the dams. I think that we will definitely have these higher temperatures, and there's plenty of nutrient availability, and then the water levels are likely to be reduced, and the percentage of the time we're going to go into different operating environment with this. And yeah, interesting for us would be to get a grip on that. But yeah, no, interesting results so far. Thanks.
Again, Kim, I mean, what we can do is we can use the dam sort of current level, and then you can play scenarios related to it. I mean, that's the neatness of the models is, you use the information to get a verified initial scenario, and then you can try to then use the same. That means that the sort of simulations associated with it are reasonable, and if they're reasonable, then you can run scenarios through it to see what the elements, because this is all using kind of physical parameters to see how these things sort of change. So even though you haven't got the measured data, you can also pretend and say, okay, well, what happens if we have an El Nino, very low rainfall, dam is not full, what will the impacts be versus another scenario related to that? But yeah, I mean, we've kind of finished a lot of this modeling, so it would have to be something that we'd look at as a future scenario, but that's, yeah, we can discuss it. Right. Just in terms of project finalization, we're needing to finalize the reports. We're going to create a consolidated report at the end of this. There's thousands of pages of sort of information in various sets of reports that have been generated. So we'll try and generate a report related to that. I was going to suggest a final presentation to a larger audience to have a look at this. We've also got 3 papers that we're currently having a look at for publication in journals, which will also then give you some peer-reviewed elements associated with that. And I just wanted to find out, well, from Kim and Futi and Tando, whether you're happy to be co-authors on those. We'll send those through to you and give that information related to that, and at least it gives you some peer review sort of elements associated with that. And then maybe to discuss more, a larger workshop to discuss water quality results. And like I said, I mean, some of this information I've had to compile quite quickly, so I'd like a little bit more time to get more information and then present those results a little bit more sort of combined, particularly when we've got these measured versus satellite results. That would be good. And yeah, maybe having a little bit more look at the sort of time series related to some of these elements over here.
So Jason, bearing in mind that the project is coming to an end,
Yeah.
and we need to actually finalize and report on what we were able to do. With the papers that you are writing, knowing that there are still some gaps, what is the approach? What are you wanting to publish on? I don't think we're ready to be publishing a paper on this until we make some improvements, of which I don't think we're going to have enough time to do that, because the project is coming to an end.
I mean, Fruity, I don't know, when you say some improvements, I mean, the improvements that you're having a look at associated with these elements over here are essentially shifts in the ranges that you're looking at. In terms of the statistical results associated with these elements over here, you're not going to really change any of that information. And I think
Maybe let me be specific. Which parts are you writing papers on? Because there's different components of the project. I know we said there's likely going to be interesting results with the dashboards. Are you writing a paper on the dashboards, or are you writing a paper on the water quality modeling or the satellite base? Which one?
well, we're going to have one paper which is basically on the satellite water quality results and the outputs associated with those, which is a lot of the information that you've sort of seen over here. Another paper we're looking at writing is on the SWOT results, but I'm not sure whether we're going to publish that. And then another paper on the Limnology we'd like to have a look at. But this is the main paper, this one over here, because the results are actually, from what I've seen, are really good results associated with that compared to other papers that I've read. We definitely in the same ballpark region of most of those. And in actual fact, you've got better data that you've compared to than many of the other papers that have been published on this stuff. So I think it's pretty good. So I mean, the improvements that you've got to this type of thing are more cosmetic than anything else, at least in my opinion. Yeah.
What's your take, Kim?
Very sorry, I missed half of that discussion. So, but what I heard was Jason said it's mostly cosmetic and it's worth publishing. I don't know if I've personally contributed significantly to actually have my name on as an author. I'd also have to see the content before
Yes, of course, yeah.
I know something was sent through, but yeah, I have not been highly involved in the limnological or the SWOT stuff. So yeah, definitely not all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like I was saying, I'm more interested in the water quality dashboard, but also I think you've been doing most of the work with GeoTerra and probably Ntando. So yeah, not me specifically, but maybe Ntando and GeoTerra.
No, we definitely got GeoTerra on that as a publication, so that's 100%. We've also put this information in as to present at the South African Hydrological Society conference. 4 papers. So 3 of the papers are on this particular content that you've got here, and then the 4th paper would be on. We put everything into Gemini to see what it would come up with from an AI perspective. Yeah, it was quite interesting what came out there, and it's more of a comparison associated with actual analysis versus what AI generates, and the cautionary sort of tale around just taking AI results, because AI produced some spectacular results, but it was nonsense, because it had just taken it does a thing called extrinsic hallucination, or I've forgotten what the other word is, but it makes the results look very good, and you have to actually be a little bit careful about just letting it interpret results, because it kind of goes onto the internet and finds its own things that verify it to make it look a bit better than it actually does. Anyway, it's quite
So
interesting.
Jason, as a way forward, I think with the short remaining time in the period, I'd like to just focus more on the dashboard component. Let's
Yes.
see what you can update, and what GeoTerra can also update, and maybe take into consideration some of the comments that we're getting from Wes during the presentations. Because I think if we can at least improve one element and see if it can be any of use to our operations or our analysis, I think that can be great.
Yeah. So Futi, definitely. I mean, we'll flip these charts. That'll be something that we do quite quickly. We'll extend the dashboard period so that you have this additional information. these coding elements that you've got over here with the presentations associated with the different different things to generate these outputs here. I'll send all of those. Well, actually, Ntanda's got a lot of that, but I've updated that for a lot of the dams. So he'll be able to put this information into a setup associated with that. And yeah, I mean, we'll get those dashboards out, and then I'll sit with Ntando and get him to generate the latest these sort of outputs from limbs, so that I've got a stronger, a longer verification period, which then I'll graph against the two, so that you can have a look and compare those a little bit more in terms of the graphing. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think
a
the
good
next
way
step,
forward?
yeah, I think that the way forward can work for all of us. The next
Okay.
step would then to have this meeting with DWS, because you remember I indicated that they actually developed a very good SWOT model for the VAL, which they want to also come and implement here in the MDN, especially with the issues around the algal blooms. So we'll have a meeting with you just to see the work that you've done, and for them to see if there's anything that they can take from this in terms of the setting up that model, and then we will call it. I mean, we'll that would be like
Are they going to use our SWOT model and then just make changes to it? What's your sort of thinking
no.
around that?
What are the outcomes from these
Okay.
projects that they can build on?
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that, Futi, but I'd also like to have another discussion workshop with Kim once we've actually just organized a little bit more of this data. I would have liked to have longer time periods and stuff like that to show, and then we can discuss the different classes and ranges. So if that's possible, maybe later in this month, that would be great.
We can, but unfortunately, Futi, there is no time left in June. There is
Yeah,
not even an option, and there's no point to do it where we do it like as a 1 or a 2 hour session. It needs to be a dedicated, like 4 to 6 hour session where you actually look at, this is what the data says, this is what is happening in the dam at this time, this is what's the satellite images are showing. It's not meaningful to just it's been very useful today to see this, and I think there's been big improvements in terms of what it's displaying, and in terms of what we know, it's making a lot more intuitive sense. And but unfortunately my time is completely over allocated for June.
in June. And Jason, would you still be able to in July, even after the project is closed?
We're quite happy to do that. The satellite stuff actually runs till the satellite algorithms that you're getting at the moment. That was paid up till end of September, I think. So I'm happy to do that. We obviously want to close the project, but we're certainly not going to just walk away side out. And I would really actually appreciate having a proper session. I'm prepared to come down. We can sit and we can go through something. So that can be scheduled in July, August. I'd be quite happy to do that. Yeah.
Maybe let's work
Suggest that, yeah, may I suggest we actually do an in-person session, a day's workshop. We would have to think, I would think sort of in the second half of July would be better once everyone's caught a bit of a breath, and just to have a dedicated focus. And yeah, we've got a full day. I think it's a recommended way.
Okay. And
Thank you, Kim.
specifically focusing on the satellite component, you're not really interested in the modeling elements related to that.
My feeling is the satellite needs a full day anyway. Maybe I'm
Yes.
not sure about the future of the modeling one, but the satellite one it will need that time and that energy. So I would focus on that as a priority.
Okay, perfect. That's fantastic. That's great. All right, happy with that. So I'm happy setting up Cornelia, if we can aim towards something end of June. If you don't mind coordinating that, that would be great. I will
Second week of July or 3rd, isn't it? Was that not
sorry,
the
Yeah.
not
Please,
July. Yes,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll send out some coordinations related to this. Yeah, I'm just quite interested. Samira, have you got any comments? Because Kim said that you were more involved in some of the modeling elements, and I was just wondering to get some feedback from you related to that.
Thanks, Jason. So I actually did modeling on wastewater systems, looking at the activated sludge process. So not quite this type of modeling, but
Right, okay.
I can see that a lot of work went into doing this, to getting it to where it is, and I can see it'll be very useful for us. So yeah, just want to commend you with all the effort you've put in.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thanks, Samira. Did you use, were you using West for the wastewater treatment works stuff with Chris Brocard?
No, actually, I went back to fundamental principles of kinetics, and I developed a model from the actual developed formulation, and did some coding in Jupyter Notebook here.
Excellent. Yeah, it'd be quite nice to have a chat with you on some of these elements, because that stuff that I was showing you with the dams aspects, you can actually write. They've got a mechanism once you've got the hydrodynamics sorted out, which we're fairly confident that we have. You can write these template sort of equations of biological sort of transformations into a thing called Ecolab, and then you can use that to then drive the transformations. It might be quite interesting to have a look at some of that with you at some stage, because it's actually quite cool to have your own template for your own dams. It'd be possible to do. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Right, Fruti, I think from my side, I'm finished, and I'm finished in more than one way. I'm quite exhausted. I need a couple of tea. But yes, thank you, and we'll set up that additional workshop. And yeah, thank you everybody for participating. And I'm glad that we're getting somewhere, and the results are moving in a direction that is useful for everybody. So fantastic. Thank you very much. And thanks for your inputs, and we will have captured all of those, and we'll try to implement those before our next discussion. And if you don't mind, I might actually send you through a couple of emails just to comment on things, if that's possible.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Samira, for your input.
Please may I be excused, because I've just got another session now. So thanks everybody, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks very much. Thanks, cheerio.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.